Good morning, traders. It's Perry Wilkie with StartTrading.com, and it's 5 minutes till 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, October 10th already. So as we look back at yesterday's session, a little bit weaker for the Russell, right? It just basically had a pop up above value and went back and closed right in value. Where the other indexes kind of got that one time framing up and just consolidating up on highs, pretty much giving it to the bears before the print. And we'll see if the bears have their revenge today. So you can look at the Nasdaq, the ES, and the Dow. They all have what I consider that Superman pattern, where you kind of stay mainly between the +1 and the +2 standard deviation of the VWAP. Uh, and just no reprieve, right? No even touch of the VWAP after the market on open orders were printed in the morning. Just come out and you can see, the Dow couldn't even get back to the VWAP. It got pretty close, but it couldn't even touch it, right? So let that, you know, be something that you can track in the future and watch. It happens in reverse, and maybe today we'll get it in reverse to where we don't go back over the VWAP to the upside because you got some bulls trapped, right? We go from bear trap to bull trap potentially. Um, as we look at what that did to structure, we have some lines in the sand. Uh, Modest lines at that at will from yesterday's session. So 20,355 for the NQ. I'd rather be, potentially a little bit leaning more short under there, leaning a little bit longer or above, and we'll have to see. And those will be on, initial reads. After you cross it a couple times, it's all bets are off. And that level is basically 58.19 for the ES, and then you really don't want any parts of longs below 42,433 for the Dow. And we'll see if we even get these single prints to trade. Those are below uh, those split distributions for the ES and the NQ. So looking at today was CPI. Those numbers came basically in line within the margin of error. However, the print was, uh, on the not so friendly side for the rate cut camp, right? It's still within the margin of error, but with it being printed on the wrong side of the ledger, uh, you can get people that will do extrapolations out, right? They'll multiply this margin of error out and think that things are going worse than potentially that they are, and we won't find out until you get a few more prints. But however, that's not going to be any. We're kind of at swings highs where we were overbought coming into today on the ES and the Nasdaq. Uh, Almost. Oh, I'm sorry. On the ES and the Dow, we were coming into overbought, and almost on the Nasdaq. So, you know, potentially not a reason to keep the bid up to take out yesterday's highs today. Looking at positioning, there's really not a lot to hang your hat on again today. The Qs did trade over 490 yesterday, closed at 493.15, and they're basically trading 491 right now. So back below 490 is going to be a little bit more bearish, down into 488, 485 potentially. Holding above 490, you could just kind of slide around up to 493, and then we'll have to see if you can get any conviction. It would be, I would think that that's the lowest of possibilities that you really start making traction. Excuse me, I didn't hit the sneeze button. So that you're gonna make traction above 493. That's about 80 points above where we're currently trading. That should be the harder trade to maintain above, I would think today. Looking at the SPY closed at 577. We're trading 575. That's obviously a decent gamma spot. So that's your line. Your early morning buffer period, and it'll probably be a little spot of contention, but you could slide down to 573, 572, then 570, 569 if that goes. And then looking at the cash market, the SPX, and this is probably really where uh, you can, a little bit more positioning to help out your cause. We basically closed at 5,800. We closed 8 points under there at 57.92 yesterday. Futures are down 21 right now, so that would make it basically 57. 70 is where we're at right now. So we're right here. You can see support should be coming in right at 57.40 to 57.45 today down here. And then, if you do get, a bid later on today that keeps us back up above those levels that I was showing you on the split distribution, uh, the upside target and not that it's a necessarily a target, but uh, I would think that the most you can get is basically 58.25 to 58.30. That would be basically 33 to 38 points uh, on the plus side of the ledger today. So there's your positioning bogeys for the day. Looking at where we're at yesterday's point of control, 58.33 basically. Then we have an untested back in the center of all the quagmire near the top end at 57.88 half. And then the ES is on that look above, right? And that look above is basically going to be above that 57.88 half. And we'll see if it is a look above and fail. You can see it a little bit clearer here on the one time framing chart or the daily candles, right? You popped up here on this contract. To new highs once again, sweeping over the stops that would be from 9 September 26th. Anyone that using that as a marker, and then you can see this 58.20 quarter is really right around where all these highs were. 58.20 to 58.25 basically, uh, and that's right where we are on that indecision point. That is the look above area. I mean, I'm sure a purist would say your look above is going to be right there at 58.30, but whatever. It's all within a few points of each other in the grand scheme of things. So getting back below there and getting something, if you get below basically that 50, let's just call it 57.95, you start printing below there, you should start heading towards this 57.25 again, and then depending on what time of the day that would happen in, if that were to happen today, if we don't continue on the look above, right? So you got two chances for longs, right? You got one around where we're at, where we are now. You got one just slightly under where all these 3-day highs were, going back to last week, and then you've got basically nothing's probably going to stop this thing until it retests the bottom end of the zone. And I don't see, normally when you're that far away from the bottom of the zone, when you get there, it won't. But I would I would think that there's a very strong possibility of taking out all these stops under 57.25 on a week tape. We'll just have to see, which way it is. So be nimble. Uh, you know, you got, chances for longs around where we are now, and then, potential for rollover all the way back to the bottom of the range if we don't. And then for the NASDAQ, and I like that we have two markers, basically above 20,250, right? And then you've got that high right around 20,517, 520, and then below there, again, you're just looking at the bottom of the range at this 19,864. Overnight action, 29 and a quarter points. It's kind of muted, to be honest with you, with such a big number this morning, or such an important number. Not that it was a big number, but you can see we're sitting here holding this 20,355 after dipping below it on that print, and that's the marker that you're at. And simultaneously, you're holding this 58.19. So there are your markers, and keep in mind where these single prints are. That's where your uh, bears are trapped below there still, so it could just, even if we let's just suppose we're going to fill these single prints down here today that are down below. it's going to be a rocky road to get down there, at least until you get under value area low in these single prints, because there's so many shorts trapped below that as soon as you get down there, it's just going to, there's going to be, there's buyers all the way down here, right? Even if the real position is that this is where we close today, it's going to be a slop fest, more than likely to get down here, unless the only thing that would really help it out is if the market on open orders themselves, in the first 15, 20 minutes, just take it straight under these levels. Otherwise, if it doesn't happen in the first 15, 20 minutes, it's going to be a slow grind to the downside. And then, holding these markers, the longer that the bulls hold these markers going into the day, if they can rotate back up to where you're positive, because if you look at where unchanged is, that's right at value area high. You're just taking out yesterday's high, and you're going to keep going up there. That's going to frustrate the bears more than anything else in the world. I hope this helps. So you got some markers. Uh, some good markers, I think, for today. You guys take care, uh, and we'll see if we get the two-sided tape or if we get a little trend. Those market on open orders, I think, will be a little bit of a key this morning. You guys have a good one, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep in mind, tomorrow morning, the banks report, some of the banks start reporting.